All right, so getting into game 4, G2 has again elected to take blue side, and RNG is on red side. So as I talked about before, after game 1, how I felt that G2 should be drafting, I think they're going to go for the same idea or strategy of trying to get one or two of their power picks out from the ban phase for RNG, whether it be Akali or the Tahm Kench, to try to first pick for them, in order to try to set up another 1-3-1 comp that they successfully executed in Game 2. So right now, we're going to go through the bans and the champ select and see what they do and if they're able to actually get these picks for pressure. So we start out with a Xayah ban, and they actually banned Lissandra second instead of the Talia. So we'll see if they still want to ban the Talia third for G2. The Akali is banned second, so that means that Kench is the only possible thing that is left up. G2 bans out the Urgot again, which is another smart ban, because that's probably the highest damage champion that Let Me is going to actually play. So this signals that either RNG is going to leave the Aatrox up and counter it with a Poppy, or they're going to ban it. It looks like they're going to ban the Alistar instead. So it looks like they're trying to bait the Aatrox pick so that they can respond with the Poppy pick. And see if G2... It normally is not a flex pick for G2 because I have not seen perks... I have not seen him play a lot of games on Aatrox mid. But it's mostly been a top lane champion for this series specifically. So there's a chance that RNG just grabs Poppy early to try to counterpick this top lane. And they're actually going to pick the Gragas, it looks like, away from Jankos. Oh, no, they're going to go for the Talia. That makes more sense. So they do leave the Talia open by banning the Lissandra instead. So it seems like G2 identified Lissandra as a more annoying thing for them to deal with. And they take the Gragas away. So this is a very interesting... It's a very interesting choice of champions to take Gragas and Talia away, because now you allow Jankos to get the Nocturne pick, who is definitely super high priority for junglers right now, probably second best, or if not first best, depending on how your team utilizes it, and they get the Tahm Kench as well. So another game, G2 gets Tahm Kench. This is really good for them if they want to set up their split pushing, and Poppy is taken as the third pick for RNG, presumably as a counter pick to top lane. So now, looking at this, it looks like it'll probably be Gragas support then, if they took Gragas that early, and Talia jungle. So now they're probably going to be banning out the comfort champions for Hjarnan. The Jhin is the first one to go. They ban Sion. So it looks like they're trying to ban out more possible counters for a tanky frontline, such as Sion, and they're going to be banning the Kai'Sa away from Uzi, and a second ban of Varus for RNG will mean that Hjarnan's champ pool is going to be pinched even further. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to pair with the Kench down bot lane. Looks like Uzi is going to go back to the Lucian probably in bot lane with the Gragas and try to bully out this lane with the Tahm Kench again. So again, they're setting up a really good team comp to help protect Uzi and to help try to get him his early lead that he has been getting for most of these games. And it looks like Hjarnan is actually going to pick the Sivir. That is probably the highest priority AD for Hjarnan at this point. With all of the other ones banned out, it gives G2 a really, really strong team fighting comp. And the Rise is going to be picked up presumably for perks. So it looks like they are going to be able to get a mid lane counter pick for Xiaohu against this Rise. And there's Syndra available. There is the potential of maybe Aurelia. I'm not sure if Xiaohu is actually going to play Aurelia or not, because they haven't shown a proficiency for putting carries on their top and mid, and looks like the Galio pick is going to be what they pick into the mid lane. So this looks like a huge, beefy protect the Uzi team comp from RNG. A lot more emphasis on that than their previous games where they do that. And So the one problem with RNG's comp is, even though they have an insanely strong front line between the Poppy, the Gragas, and the Galio, if G2 is able to get ahead, then they are going to be able to dive Uzi and probably end up killing him. So actually, to go back here, this is the development I was talking about that I already saw happening ahead of time when watching this. They are going to swap the Rise against the Poppy, and they're going to swap perks onto Aatrox right now. And they did it basically at the last second so that there was no time for reaction for RNG to do anything about it. And so this basically gives G2 their winning side lanes again. This is a good adaptation to use the Aatrox as a flex pick against presumably what RNG thought was going to be Rise mid and Aatrox top. So this is a good read, I think, to bait out the Poppy pick and give Rise an advantageous lane and top lane against the Poppy. So this means now, looking at this draft, G2 has again their winning side lanes that they're going to be able to pressure with, both Aatrox and Rise just switched up this time. They'll have the utility of the Nocturne ult plus the semi-global part of it for ganking. So it's really easy to gank these lanes. Realistically, though, I think Jankos is probably going to spend most of his time bot lane looking for Uzi, because again, if Uzi is killed early or Uzi is put behind early, there's not a lot of damage other than Talia on that RNG team comp. So it's going to be really hard for them to be able to win fights if Uzi is not strong enough to be able to deal with G2's team comp. And again, they have a really good setup. They have the Sivir for wave clear in mid lane. They have the Kench to be able to move everybody around between the lanes whenever they're trying to take towers. And I think that G2 created another really good 1-3-1 team comp, and we're going to see how well they can execute it on this time. So as we see, Uzi is already trying to pressure their lead and their range advantage over this Sivir. He's doing a lot of auto-attacking, a lot of chipping down. And realistically, that means that they're going to be looking for a level 2 cheese with the body slam. They have the ignite plus everything. If they can beat the Kench to level 2, which they don't, they're able to save Hjarnan. So that was a good attempt by RNG to try to get a lead. Uzi has been constantly pushing in this whole time with his W and just trying to poke out this Sivir as much as possible. And so he's basically trying to get this big lane advantage that he's been getting in pretty much every other game so far. So Perks has to flash out there. That's a good flash from him because of the Talia being there. And she was able to clear her whole top side super quickly. But Jankos being down here goes for a gank and actually gets Poppy's TP out, which is really big because she's already in a disadvantageous lane and top lane. So being able to take that TP out and keep her from being able to come back, now Wonder should be able to push that lane and get a really big CS lead and really good tower lead advantage on here. So Karsa goes again for another gank in mid lane. Jankos is right next to him, so there should be no threat there. That's a good spell shield from Jankos, being able to stop any damage from Karsa. So right now it's basically just letting Jankos get to level 6 as quickly as possible, and then they're going to look for a gank bot lane onto the Lucian. The Gragas probably won't be able to offer a ton of peel for the Nocturne. So as long as bot lane is able to save their summoners for the most part, they should be able to get a kill once Nocturne gets 6. And then since there is a TP available for Wonder and not for Let Me, they should be able to look for something here. And Talia is going to go in. They're going to look for a kill. Wadid is able to... That was really well played by Wadid to not die. They actually are almost able to trade a kill back onto Ming. And they do lose both of their flashes. However, they're able to absorb another gank of pressure from Karsa on this Talia, who's going to be definitely early game focused. But the big thing is that if they're able to absorb this pressure, it allows Nocturne to be able to farm faster to get level 6 so that he then can actually come down here and impact this lane. And since Uzi's flash is down, realistically, if Jankos is able to get level 6 fast enough, they could look to kill Uzi very quickly before his flash cooldown comes back up, because he doesn't have heal this game, he has TP, so he doesn't even have a combat summoner to be able to use as a defensive. So I think that taking advantage of that for G2 is one of the most important things that they can actually do this game. And so Xiaohu is going to go in right here. They're going to look for perks. He's able to sidestep a lot of the abilities. And G2 is doing a really good job of like individual micro plays to be able to not get behind, because a lot of these abilities, if any of them hit, they probably result in a kill, and then RNG gets something snowballing in one of these lanes and gets one of these carry champions down early. So I think that as long as Hjarnan is able to reasonably farm well against Uzi and keep him pushed in, it negates a lot of the pressure for first tower that we've seen RNG being like really focused on getting. So we'll see how this ends up working out. Jankos is level 5. He's trying to absorb mid lane XP to get level 6 faster. Scuttle is going to be up in the bot river, so he's going to be able to he should be able to take that since Karsa just based. And Ryze is still pushing in the Poppy. He's got almost about a 15-ish CS lead after that wave hits tower. So he's already creating a big advantage in the top lane as it is right now. And Jankos is hovering down at 6 now, so he's going to be hovering around bot lane a lot. He's going to take the Scuttle down here. At any time that they can get Uzi out of position before his flash cooldown comes up is huge. They're going to try to probably dive this. If not, nope, okay. They should definitely be pressuring Uzi right now, though, inside this wave. Because I think what they're planning to do is get the wave to bounce off the tower, so it's going to be naturally pushing back to them. And then once it's pushing back into them, they'll have Jankos come down bot lane with a Nocturne ultimate. So here again, we see perks. He's going to get ulted. But actually, they can turn this around. Yeah, and they are going to force Karsa's flash out here. So that was really well played. And Ming is up here to roam. He's going to look to try to put pressure onto Jankos, but I think they can turn this around since Wadid is here. He burns the Ignite as well. And since Nocturne is there, he doesn't lose, or since Tahm Kench is there, Nocturne doesn't lose his life. So that was actually that was a bit greedy from RNG, I think, to try to go that hard after they had already lost somebody. I'll watch the replay again here to see what exactly happened, but I think the Gallia Justice Punch interrupted Karsa's seismic shove, and that's why he didn't get knocked through the rocks right away. That's what it looked like, so he actually had time to pop his ultimate. Yeah, that's what happened. So because he got to pop his ultimate, they were able to secure the kill onto Xiaohu, and then also secure Karsa's flash here. Jankos is able to walk away essentially from Ming and then turn around once Wadid is there. And then since Perks is already back into the lane from walking around the terrain there, they're able to just pick up a second kill. That was a bit overzealous by Ming, I think. I think he didn't have to actually chase that far, and he got a little bit baited into that play by G2. So overall, they have about almost a 2.5k gold lead, which is really big. Perks is 2-0 right now on the Aatrox, and they're committing the Ryze's TP right now bot lane to try to get pressure and race the bot lane for first tower so that Uzi cannot take advantage of that top lane, which is really smart. And I think Poppy is going to go in here. Yep. So they're basically just using all of their stuff here to try to keep G2 from taking this tower. They use the Gallia ult, they use the Poppy ult, but they're still not actually going to be able to stop them. And it wasn't even close on the top side. So that's a really big play to bring the Ryze down there to pressure for that tower and to get everybody first blood tower gold so that he's not that far behind. And Jankos actually just finds a pick right there. He pretty much just catches Karsa in his jungle without his flash, and since he has ultimate, it's very easy for Nocturne to 1v1 the Talia with spell shield up. So that's another huge kill right there, and big amount of pressure given over to G2. So this gives them the ability to send Sivir topside and then look for Rift Herald, since they are further ahead in terms of tempo and pressure right now. And Galio has to use his teleport mid lane now, so there's not a chance for him to turn anything around unless he has his ultimate back up, which will still be a while. And yeah, this game is looking a lot better for G2 to begin with. Again, it comes off the back of really strong individual solo lane pressure that they're able to create. Wonder is up almost 40 CS now on this Poppy, and this flex pick with the pop to fight against the Poppy was just really smart, and honestly gave them such a big advantage for their individual laning phases. And it finally goes back to what I was talking about, where they need the strong solo lanes to succeed. And it looks like Perks is actually almost able to solo kill Karsa, just running it down with Youmuu's and World Ender up at the same time. He blows all of his summoners for that, but again pushes Karsa out of the jungle, creates more time for his Nocturne to be able to farm, and just creates more map-wide pressure off of that play. He did go the Youmuu's instead of the Black Cleaver first, and I believe that's just because he's a mid lane Aatrox against Galio. I think in top lane it's probably better to go the Caulfield's Warhammer into the Black Cleaver first, but it looks like he's really focused heavily on doing as much damage and just trying to one-shot with a full combo on Aatrox as possible. So what's really good about this situation with Perks being 2-0 right now, he's ahead of this Galio in terms of item build and just overall pressure in the lane. They're able to chip down this mid outer tower with like only the natural push of the minions right now. Oh, and that's a really good interrupt right there onto Xiaohu. Sivir ultimate to get the Rift Herald down. You probably didn't have to use the Sivir ultimate there, but they were looking for a kill. And being able to transition the Rift Herald right into a mid lane tower at 13 minutes essentially is really, really good for G2, because they are able to now unlock the ability to ward deep into RNG's jungle to find the Talia before she can make any actual plays across the map. Because her using her ultimate to try to find a pick onto one of the side lanes is probably the easiest way for them to be able to get back into this game. But if they're able to keep deep ward and keep deep vision on this Talia, then she's going to lose a lot of her inherent pressure of being able to move around the jungle really fast. So now, as you can see, the side lane pressure from Aatrox is really starting to take its toll on this top lane tower. As it's going down, it's taking a lot of just chip damage straight from the minions. It seems like the side lanes of G2 are really online right now. Sivir is on her one item plus full boots. Uzi is currently finished with just Bork, but does not have any boots at all. So he's actually behind in terms of the item build against the Sivir, which is like one of the first times that's happened this series. And it just seems like the item breakpoints are favoring G2 in this game specifically because of the early game plays they were able to make and the early advantages they got through Perks in mid lane. This allows G2 to just have so much jungle pressure and be able to ward deeper and be able to push these side lanes a lot safer and start cracking these towers as it's going along. So right now it looks like with the Aatrox splitting top lane, he's going to try to pressure the tower. But it looks like they're going to actually try to collapse on him right now with the Talia and the Galio. Nocturne uses his ult and he actually finds Uzi walking up the river. So now that Uzi is down, they essentially have free reign to just be able to walk through this team fight and win. Aatrox is just super strong right now, uses the Ignite on Karsa and gets him killed. Wonder is now there, he roots him up, and they should be able to kill him as well. And so yeah, it's just this Aatrox pick in mid lane and the nature of the flex pick that they have here is one of the biggest reasons they've gotten this advantage that's going on right now. And Sivir's going to be able to push up mid tower. A lot of these kills that they're getting allow G2 to make pressure around the map and try to get some more chip damage onto these towers, because that's the best way for this 1-3-1 composition to actually work well into RNG specifically. And after that example of Uzi getting caught out in the river by himself right there, that just shows how strong G2's comp actually is. That if Uzi is dead and he is not able to participate in a fight, they can pretty much just roll over any team fight with the World Ender on Aatrox plus Nocturne plus Sivir coming in with the Tahm Kench. Because again, the Kench was able to bring the Rise into that team fight without him having to use his own ultimate. And the way that G2 is able to use Tahm Kench and the map pressure that ultimate brings is really what complements their 1-3-1 composition so well. Because they're able to just bring pressure to the side lanes and bring a numbers advantage regardless of how many people on RNG actually show up to try to stop them. And so here is another example of the Nocturne jumping in. Uzi has to flash out, and even the Galio ult is burned. So there's a lot of paranoia from Nocturne ultimate and basically just trying to backpedal and peel for Uzi. And right now the gold lead is about 6k or so, a little bit over 6k. G2 has pretty much full control of the map at this point, and they're able to just constantly keep shoving in on these side lanes and get more and more pressure onto RNG's base, which is really, really good because, again, they're playing their 1-3-1 style so well, and it all starts with the solo lane pressure that they're able to get. And once they get these item break points, Perkz has finally reached the Black Cleaver second item now. And just looking at the gold advantage, he has like almost a 3k gold lead just on Xiaohu himself. So right here it looks like they're going to try to collapse with Talia ultimate. Perkz throws down the World Ender and he gets it popped. Wonder is there now to try to dissuade. And Perkz actually flashes forward here and is able to just straight up kill Karsa on this. And then RNG has no ability to do anything because Wadid also comes in with the Abyssal Voyage and saves Perkz. And that's a huge turnaround. That's an RNG play that they're trying to be proactive to take out one of the split pushers and try to get the shutdown gold off of him. But just because of how many globals and semi-globals G2 has, it's almost impossible for them to actually punish them with this kind of a fight. So Perkz' World Ender basically stalls it out. Wonder already TPs up there to try to dissuade the Gragas from joining the fight there. And because of that, Perkz is able to just run through. And then with another TP from Hjarnan, and then the ultimate from the Abyssal Voyage right there, they basically just dissuade Uzi from being able to go kill Perkz. And that's a huge play right there for G2 to be able to control the map in that regard. Because now they have more pressure onto Baron. They can look to try to fight around River to get vision control because they're just the stronger team comp. And once they're able to strangle out the vision for G2, then it's almost impossible for RNG to actually contest a Baron. So right now, the Nocturne is hovering around the Rise at the moment because he can join in at any point. If they get a good chance at a pick, then they'll be able to collapse on the Poppy and take more tower damage. Aatrox is splitting topside. So RNG is basically being pulled and pushed across the map at this point because of how strong the side laners are. And again, you don't have Uzi on any kind of late game insurance AD carry where there might be a chance to out team fight G2 if RNG is able to get like a really good engage with the Galio. So here they try to catch out Hjarnan, and the Tahm Kench basically just eats him up. They actually bring the TP from Poppy down. So that's another big global piece off the map for RNG. And right there was a great example of why the Nocturne ultimate is just so good, not only as a damage threat, but as like a utility and a defensive mechanism for a team comp, as we'll see in the replay probably shortly here. The miscommunication and the disruption that Nocturne ult provides really makes it hard for RNG to actually like pull off a coordinated attack onto the bot lane of G2 because they can't see anything. It's impossible for them to actually be able to coordinate and fight. So now we see them trying to get some pressure into the blue buff, but they'll just back away here. And now that they are based and they have bought items, Sivert is on her 2.5-ish spike right now for items of the BF sword after Rapid Fire and Stormrazor. Lucian has finished his Blade of the Rune King and Black Cleaver. However, he is definitely behind in item builds, and Perks is looking to put more pressure on Karsa so that Jankos can steal away this red buff, and they're going to continue to push their vision into the top side, which is where they should be focusing since Baron is up right now, and just letting Wonder split push against this Galio, who is actually pretty squishy because he doesn't have very many items. He only has the completed Roa and nothing really else defensive other than this. Ming flashes forward to try to get a good cask. They stun Perks against the wall, but he gets eaten up, and he just jumps in and just does a ton of damage onto the backside of RNG. And now Hjarnan is there to help clean up. They actually do get the shutdown now onto Perks. However, Wonder was able to come in there and clean up, and they take a convincing teamfight victory here with pressure, and now they're probably going to take that down to Baron. Wonder was walled off at the back there, so it was looking a little bit dicey for G2 at the beginning of that, but once he was able to run in with Spellbinder, he essentially just cleaned up the fight right there, and it was really easy for them to put a lot of pressure down on RNG, and now they're going to be able to take Baron for free after a really good team fight victory. So looking at this again, they're basically just trying to pressure. Ming misses the body slam part of the flash, but still gets the cask down and forces the consume out of Wadid. Perks just decides to jump over the wall here and be disruptive since his ultimate is about to run out. And Xiaohu actually has to defensively ult out here to the back, and he's already dead at the beginning of this fight. Wonder is stuck down behind by the turret with the Talia wall, but he is able to just flash in and kill both Uzi and Karsa right away. Hjarnan is able to escape from getting killed, and then they are able to transition that into Baron pressure. So the ability of them to just collapse with both of their split pushers together and then just win a team fight because of their massive gold lead, that's the biggest way for them to now be able to pressure and get Baron pressure to take inner towers and inhib towers off of RNG at this point. Because they are already at a 12k gold lead right now, and that's without taking any structures from Baron at this point. So now it's important to see how G2 is able to pull apart RNG again, like how they did similarly in Game 2. That should be their goal, to be stacking and getting these waves together to be able to push in and chip down the inhib towers as they're going along. And I think the only thing that RNG can really do is just to try to hard engage on one of these side lanes and just try to stall out the Baron. You'll probably end up losing a tower somewhere else, and you'll probably end up losing mash pressure somewhere else. But it's better to try to keep taking Barons off and try to get more gold back into Uzi's pockets to see if he's able to actually carry this. Because it's going to be really difficult. Like I said before, if this team comp falls behind for RNG, they don't really have a lot of damage. They have a lot of CC and tankiness, but Uzi is really the only damage threat at this point. And if he is not strong enough to kill the Aatrox and the Ryze, then those two champions are going to kill him first. So here we see they're getting pressure all along all three lanes at this point. Hjarnan and Wadid actually ult out with Tahm Kench because they were looking to engage. So that was a heads up play by Wadid to have his ultimate primed and ready. And they go back to Baron up the minions that are coming down mid lane so that they come in faster. So that was a pretty good play. Here we see the Talia ultimate coming down, but another really good Nocturne ult to dissuade any kind of team fight. The ability to just cancel out their vision makes it hard for them to know if they're going to get collapsed on or if they can even make a team fight call at all. So now it looks like this is pretty basic 1-3-1ing with Baron, where they're able to pull pressure and take inhib damage based on the minion waves. Perks is pushing in top lane. They can't really stop him there. Wonder is able to take the bot inhib. Their bot lane is able to take the mid inhib. And right now, this is just a huge power vacuum for G2 at this point because they're able to just exert so much pressure onto the map with this Baron buff. They're already at like a 6k gold Baron buff power play right now. So now they'll probably base, reset, go to Infernal, and then continue to push in the top lane inhibitor and look for another pick inside the jungle. To just quickly take a look at the items here really quick, we'll just highlight how much further ahead G2 is in this case. We've already got a completed Seraph, we got a Void Staff, we have an Spellbinder for Rise as well, and he has Merc Treads plus another Needlessly Large Rod. He's going to be doing a ton of damage to these tanks and to Uzi specifically. Nocturne has both a Duskblade and a GA completed along with Merc Treads and his jungle item, so he is also definitely a kill threat for Uzi at this point. Perks is on his 2.5-ish item power spike now with the Yomu's and the Black Cleaver. Looks like he's probably going to be building Sterix, and then the Caulfield's Warhammer might be going towards more lethality, or it could be going towards a different item. I'm not quite sure what that's going to be yet. Then Hjarnan already has his 3-item spike for Sivir in terms of team fighting with the IE, the Stormrazor, and the Rapid Fire Cannon, plus an extra Zeal. He isn't really ever in kill threat from anyone on RNG, so it's okay for him to be itemizing more offensively in this case. Plus, he's at 90. He would be at 90% crit right now, so almost every single auto is going to crit, which means that higher auto DPS from true damage on Sivir crits as well. And then Tom Kench has his full support item plus his 1 item, and Merc Treads completed with a stopwatch. So G2 is looking really strong with this huge gold lead. They're almost at like 15k at this point, and there's not a lot on the side of RNG that can really compete. Uzi is the only one that really has anywhere near to the amount of items Sivir has, with Blade, Black Cleaver, and he looks like he's building his Rapid Fire Cannon again. Galio is going for a much more AP heavy focused build with the Roa and the Lost Chapter plus a Blasting Wand, but that just means he's going to get blown up super quickly by all the damage that G2 has. The Talia is on Morello's and her Runic Echoes plus Sork Shoes, but again, she's not very strong either because she's only 2 items at this point. And then Poppy doesn't even have 2 whole completed items, just a lot of resistances and pieces. So overall, G2 will win this game purely based on the item advantage and the pressure advantage they have created with their side lane pushing. So they're going to take this Infernal Dragon, and then they should pressure, probably throw Rise in bot lane or mid lane, and just pressure as a 4-man unit to try to take that tower. Since there's no more Baron for them, they should be grouping up together and just using their gold advantage to try to push in for this last inhibitor. And then realistically, it'll be one last fight for RNG to try to make something happen, and then the game will probably end in G2's favor. So we'll see if they're able to cleanly end this. They should be able to with a 15k gold lead at this point. But we'll see if RNG has some kind of way to try to find a pick onto one of the G2 members, but it's going to be pretty difficult at this point. So it looks like the pick that they're going to try to set up with Vision is a control ward in their bush, and looking to hard engage onto Hjarnan. Wadid is able to pick him up really quickly with the Sivir ult and walk out. And now because of this, because of an unsuccessful engage, Wonder and Perks are able to just take down these Nexus towers. And now with this, because they're being pulled back, they have to go for the Inhib tower in top lane. And these two are just, and Perks and Wonder are just going to be 2v2ing right here to try to figure this out. And so another good Nocturnal. Wonder just does a ton of damage on the back end there. He's able to pretty much almost insta-kill Xiaohu right there. Perks jumps in. This is the last fight. Yankos and everybody are taking down the towers. They get ulted out by Poppy, but they're just so far ahead right now. Almost a 20k gold lead at the end of the game. And they are able to take this to a game 5. So what I really like about what G2 did this game was they went back to what their actual good style was of how they team play. They used a smart flex of the Aatrox pick and the Rise pick to create advantageous side lanes, which then with their own really good individual mechanical outplays, they were able to snowball the game in their favor and win a lot of team fights against RNG where they could create numbers advantages with the picks that they had. So realistically, RNG is going to take blue side again and probably ban the same 3 champions that they've been banning on blue side every single time. So it's up to G2 to create a split push style on red side, which they have not successfully done in either of their games yet. They were close in game 1, but they just gave over too much of an advantage to Uzi, and they had too much of a beefy front line with the Urgot and the Scion. So I think if G2 is able to keep their bans, if they are able to keep Urgot out of RNG's hands and force Let Me onto something different, I think that gives them a much more significant advantage.